The words hit like a quiet storm on a warm summer evening in Charleston, South Carolina. Sitting on a wooden patio surrounded by blooming flowers and fading sunlight, Grace lowered her eyes and whispered the sentence she had carried in her heart. For years, she believed it with every broken piece of herself. She believed it so deeply that saying it aloud felt like confessing a painful truth she could no longer hide. She was certain the man sitting across from her would stand up, offer a polite goodbye, and walk away forever. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, hope, forgiveness, compassion, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that even the deepest wounds can heal when someone chooses to see our worth. Grace had spent most of her life feeling invisible. At 32, she worked at a small community library where she spent her days, helping children discover books and elderly visitors find comfort in familiar stories. To everyone around her, she appeared calm and dependable. Few people knew how hard she fought every day against the voice inside her head that constantly reminded her of her failures. Years earlier, Grace had been engaged to a man she trusted completely. She had built her future around promises that never came true. When the relationship ended, it did more than break her heart. It shattered her confidence. She began believing that something was fundamentally wrong with her. While friends married and started families, Grace quietly withdrew from social gatherings and celebrations. She smiled when expected, but deep down she felt left behind. For nearly 7 years, she convinced herself that loneliness was safer than disappointment. Then she met Nathan. Nathan Harper was a single father raising his 9-year-old daughter. Abigail, his wife, had passed away from an illness several years earlier, leaving him to navigate grief while learning how to be both mother and father to a little girl who depended on him for everything. The experience had changed him. It had made him gentler, more patient, and far less interested in appearances than most people. Grace first met Nathan during a reading program at the library. Abigail attended every Saturday. The cheerful little girl adored adventure novels, and somehow always managed to borrow twice as many books as she was supposed to. Over time, Grace noticed how devoted Nathan was. He never seemed distracted when Abigail spoke. He listened carefully, encouraged her dreams, and celebrated even the smallest accomplishments. Watching them together stirred something inside Grace that she thought had disappeared long ago. Months passed before Nathan asked if she would like to have coffee with him. She almost said no, not because she disliked him, but because she feared him. She feared what hope might do if it entered her life again. To her surprise, coffee turned into conversations. Conversations turned into friendship, and friendship slowly became something deeper. Yet every step forward brought new anxiety. Grace constantly waited for the moment. Nathan would discover all the reasons she believed she was unworthy of love. One evening, after several months of growing closer, they sat together on the patio outside a neighborhood cafe. The golden sunlight painted long shadows across the wooden deck. Children laughed nearby while soft music drifted through the air. That was when Grace finally confessed what she had hidden for years. She told Nathan about the engagement that collapsed. She told him about the years of self-doubt. She told him about every insecurity she carried. And then she spoke the sentence that had become the foundation of her identity. She said she wasn't fit for any man. Afterward, silence filled the space between them. Grace braced herself. But Nathan's reaction was nothing like she expected. He didn't argue. He didn't offer empty compliments. He didn't tell her she was perfect. Instead, he looked toward the playground where Abigail was laughing with other children. Then he quietly shared something Grace had never known. He admitted that after losing his wife, he had spent years believing he had failed his family. He blamed himself for not being stronger, smarter, or capable of changing the outcome. Even while raising Abigail with love, he carried guilt that never seemed to disappear. For years, he had looked in the mirror and seen only his shortcomings. Then one day, Abigail brought home a school assignment. The children had been asked to describe their hero. Abigail had written about him. She described his kindness, his patience, and the way he always made her feel safe. Nathan explained that reading those words changed his life. For the first time, he realized that people who love us often see qualities we cannot see ourselves. As tears filled Grace's eyes, Nathan gently told her that he had never seen a woman who cared more deeply about others. He had watched her encourage shy children, comfort lonely visitors, and make people feel valued without expecting anything in return. The flaws Grace focused on every day were not what defined her. Her compassion did, her resilience did, her heart did. For the first time in years, Grace allowed herself to consider the possibility that she had been measuring her worth through the wrong lens. The months that followed were not magical or perfect. Healing rarely happens that way. There were still difficult days when old fears resurfaced, but now she had people who reminded her of the truth. Nathan reminded her. Abigail reminded her. And eventually, she learned to remind herself. Before we reach the ending, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever struggled to see your own value while everyone else could see it clearly? Leave a comment below and share your experience. Your words may encourage someone else who is fighting the same battle. 2 years later, on a bright spring afternoon near the Charleston waterfront, Grace stood beneath a canopy of white blossoms, surrounded by family, friends, and rows of smiling children from the library. As she looked across the crowd, she spotted Abigail standing proudly beside her father. The little girl wasn't smiling because she was gaining a stepmother. She was smiling because she was gaining another person who loved her unconditionally. And Grace wasn't smiling because someone had rescued her. She was smiling because she had finally learned to stop judging herself through the eyes of fear. She had discovered something far more powerful. She had discovered her own worth. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who may need hope today, and subscribe for more uplifting stories. Every act of encouragement matters more than you know. As the evening sun settled over Charleston, Grace realized that the greatest gift Nathan had given her wasn't a relationship, it was a new perspective. He showed her that brokenness does not make a person unlovable. Sometimes, the people who believe they are least deserving of love are the very people who have the most love to give. And in that beautiful realization, a lonely chapter finally ended, while a hopeful new one began.